Hey, man, what's going on?
Oh, it's been a week, dude. So I got hit by lightning this week.
Final destination, router style.
Yeah. Took out my router. Exactly. This is what I find interesting. It went through the modem.
That's what happened to me.
And took out the switch on the router. Like the router is still accessible through the web interface, like locally.
Yeah.
Through the Wi-Fi. But none of the ports on the back of the router, none of the network ports are actually working.
That's kind of what happened to me. Mine went through the cable modem and blew out the WAN port on my router, on my firewall. Final. If you've been hit by a lightning strike, please call us at 1-800 All Things MSP.
You may be, eligible for damages.
You may be entitled to compensation. We won't provide that compensation. You just might be entitled to it. I've also been looking to reach out to you about your car's extended warranty.
Yeah.
Our guest, Kristen Costagliola from Syncro, will be up soon. But it's been a week. I don't know who else is doing this, but look, everyone's talking about AI. We've been talking about ChatGPT a lot on this show. And what I've realized is, because it's not that I was denying it. Like, I know everyone who's listening is like, oh, you hate ChatGPT, Justin. I'm like, I don't. I use it all the time. But I haven't really seen it in use at a lot of my clients. So I've been postponing this. And I've seen recently a lot of clients coming to me about ChatGPT questions. And I'm also realizing now that ChatGPT is slowly becoming a very, very powerful search engine, right? And I'm assuming at some point it might topple Google, but I don't know when. So I've taken a couple hours this morning, and I'm going to get back to it after we're done recording. And I'm actually having ChatGPT help me rework content on the pages of my website to make it more ChatGPT friendly. Like, I want ChatGPT to be able to find it and index it and pull it up when someone goes to ChatGPT and says, I need Mac help. It can figure out us pretty easily. I'm basically GPTEOing. It's not really what it is, but you know what I mean.
I get it, right? And this is a thing. Like, I've seen other articles on this, and I think it's more relevant than just adapting it to ChatGPT. I think it's adapting it to AI in general, which, obviously Google has AI search results when you do a search now. So I think optimizing your website, your social media, whatever it is, to be more AI friendly. Yeah. Is a thing and is relevant because more people are using not only ChatGPT as a search engine, which they are absolutely doing, but also they're looking at the AI results from Google and Gemini and using those as what they're, going to next, what they're clicking on, rather than actually going down further and looking at the old style search results.
Right. And I think it's really interesting because once I gave ChatGPT some info about my website, like it's a WordPress website, please don't hack me, and I use Yoast for SEO, it actually is even developing SEO based titles and meta descriptions for every page. And like, don't get me wrong, like the system is not 100% correct. Like, I literally had it rewrite a page about our hardware repair stuff, which had Gravity listed on it because that's our hardware repair team down in Missouri, and then they're known in Missouri as Gravity. And I had already changed that out, put Virtua, had it rewrite content, updated it, and then I went back and I was like, reread this now and just double check to make sure it's all right. And it was like, you still have Gravity in here. And I'm like, I don't, because you made me take it out the first time. Where are you seeing it? And obviously I'm thinking like maybe it's cached or something like that on its side, which is totally possible. But I was like, you know what? Forget it. We'll come back to it in an hour. And it was just like, cool, whatever. Like, I was like, you, like, I liked how it just like, it took disregard to whatever I was saying, right? I was like, yeah, we'll come back to it in an hour. And it was like, cool, thanks for letting me off the hook, man.
Yeah, I'll take a coffee break now.
Exactly. What are you, network Chuck? Get back to work, robots. Near.
Operating an MSP sucks. Gozinta is here to make it suck less. With their consulting services, they are your trusted advisors through every step of your MSP's journey, from startup to exit. And their software is crafted with care to ensure that they're solving problems for you and not creating new headaches. Find out more at atmsp.link/Gozinta. That's atmsp.link/Gozinta.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the All Things MSP podcast. I'm your host, Justin Esgar. With me always is my good friend and scruffy do, Mr. Eric Anthony.
I like that one because I'm a huge Scooby-Doo fan, so that works. And yeah, it's getting longer. It's getting
messier.
More beautiful.
It's not getting more beautiful. You know what? Let's get the opinion of a guest. I love it when we have a guest today. Bringing up Kristen Costagliola, CTO at Syncro. Kristen, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I like the beard. I like the scruffiness. I think it goes well.
And this episode is now over. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Kristen, because it's very hard to get him to even acknowledge the beard besides his... I
acknowledge it. I just wish it never existed. Anyway, Kristen, let everyone know, who's listening. Who are you? Give a 2-minute spiel. What is Syncro? And I know you got 5-year-old twin boys. What show are you done watching?
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, Kristen Costagliola. I'm CTO of Syncro. Syncro is an RMM, PSA, and M365 management tool. It combines everything that you need to run your business and to provide your tech's efficiency and to simplify all of the tools that you might need to use. I've been in the MSP space for a long time on the engineering side, came over from another company, but I've been in the MSP space for around 15 years. Love MSPs, love working with MSPs. Have just found that that's a big passion of mine and excited to bring really good tools to MSPs because I feel like a lot of times we get forgotten to some degree. And yes, 5-year-old twin boys. I think right now our big obsession is K-pop Demon Hunters. I kind of find them pretty catchy. I don't know that that's the thing I would wish to not watch, but yeah. You could do without some of the pieces there, but the songs are really catchy. I enjoy them. Yeah. I kind of rock out to them.
My 6-year-old daughter is all about that, and I'm like, no. Hilariously, though, it's done by side note, it's done by the same animation studio that does the Spider-Man Into the Multiverse movies, and I like those, and their soundtracks are good, but K-pop Demon Hunters should be hunted and ruined forever.
So it sounds like there truly is a benefit to having older kids that don't watch that kind of stuff anymore.
I'm going to change your ringtone, Eric, to every time you call me. It's going to be some sort of K-pop Demon Hunter song, which reminds me not to pick up the phone. Anyway, you mentioned something, Kristen, that I do want to talk about today, which is efficiency within the organization, right? Within an MSP organization. And so with a product like Syncro, right, because you had mentioned your PSA, your RMM, your Office 365 Management, your Office 365 Backup, it sounds like you guys have kind of got a lock in this idea of, single platform, right? Keep people where they are, which is something that we try to do at Virtua. When we acquired our hardware team, one of the things I wanted to do is get them all in our one PSA. That office had a different one than we were using, and we had a different one for some of the repair stuff we were doing. And so we cobbled it together. But to get everybody into one system, this way they're always there, seems like a major efficiency boost. Is that the goal here for Syncro?
That is the goal. I think we see tech, especially these days, as we continue to move more into the SaaS world of, think years ago, everything was on-prem. You had all of your stuff and you needed really, a solution to manage the on-prem systems. You needed remote access, you needed RMM. But now that everything's SaaS, man, think about how many different platforms, different systems your technicians go into on a daily basis, or what they need to do to manage, to view what's happening across all of your different clients. And our goal is to simplify that, to make that, to bring it into one place. I hate the term single pane of glass, but the platform is really where we're going. We're not trying to put everything on one screen. That's not helpful, but one interface that you know how to manage, that you know how to navigate through. All of the pieces are there. You don't have to have extra learning curve of, where is that in the menu? hey, do I need to add this new technician to this other tool that I don't have? It can all be managed. Your security, your access, all of that in a single place, to help your training and just to help your techs be more efficient, and then to help communication between the different teams. We all know internally there's lots of projects happening at all the same time. And Justin, you said, you moved to just get onto the same PSA. If you're trying to manage a ticket and you have to jump between 3 different platforms, and then your technician goes on vacation or needs to go on site or needs to do something and you have to hand that off, that's a huge amount of context that your other techs have to pick up to actually see that all the way through. And projects are not as simple. They're not simple these days. There's a lot that goes into the projects and everything that you need to manage as an MSP.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. And for anyone who wants to know why we're joking around about single pane of glass, go back a couple episodes ago to where Eric and I had a fist fight over this. But I'm with you on this like single platform concept. Like for us at Virtua, we've called it like our primary tool and our secondary tools. And like if there's something that we want to use and it's not doesn't work within our primary tool, which is our PSA, or secondary tool, which is something we have to use that doesn't work with the PSA, maybe it's something from Apple or whatever. If we deem it as like a tertiary tool or whatever quadrary, I don't know what fourth is, it gets knocked off the list and we don't allow it, right? Like it needs to somehow or other integrate in with our primary in some way, shape, or form for exactly what you're talking about. Because if we can train someone on a PSA that has all the buttons for all the widgets, to do everything, you don't have to remember that like yesterday Office 365 reset password was on the left side and now it's on the right side.
Exactly. And it goes so broader than that, there's a lot of companies that have a ton of tertiary tools, right? And even when you look at a lot of the big vendors in the space, they have a ton of different tools that you can buy. And some of them are integrated, but a lot of them aren't. They're kind of still very separate, and still you either have to integrate them via API, which ends up not working as well in a lot of cases. And you see just errors and things that you missed. I mean, I think MSPs today, time, it's always been true, but time is one of the most critical resources that an MSP can have. And we're all, I was talking to someone a while ago, like sometimes being an MSP feels like you're running on a treadmill at, the highest speed, and you're trying to drink a cup of coffee at the same time while doing that. And so you don't always have the time to think about all of the different things that are going on. And it can really quickly become something, you can really quickly miss things, not on purpose, not maliciously, not because you're doing something wrong, but just there's a lot going on. It's hard to keep it in.
I 100% agree. And I'm so glad that I'm not a coffee drinker.
Me too.
To have to worry about that. But if I first off, running is horrible. Actually, I saw a meme yesterday that was like, if you want to have a good day, wake up at 5 a.m. and go for a run, and then realize your day can only get better because that was the worst thing you've ever done. Like nothing could be worse than that, or something to that effect. I agree with this. Like the communication piece, I think, is a big piece, right? How can a tool like Syncro help MSP techs with that communication? Because obviously it's a people problem, not necessarily a tech problem in this regard, because if that tech isn't documenting, there's nothing that can be done. But do you guys have systems in place to help to make that efficiency happen?
We have a couple of things. We have a couple of ways for tracking and categorization, and we have tools like worksheets to help kind of standardize workflows across the board. So if you have a ticket of like an onboarding, or if you have a ticket of something specific on a project, you can have worksheets where you can track and see exactly when someone kind of handed things off. We have some things in flight right now, which I'm really looking forward to kind of coming out in the future, that I think are hopefully really going to help a lot of that too, to make it easier to get to a ticket and see, oh, here's what's been done, and here's where it's left off, and how the customer maybe is feeling about that. We have a couple of different AI features that we released in the past that I think we're trying to expand on and kind of improve to make that a little bit easier to say, here's what you can do.
I do like that you said in flight and not on your roadmap, because I feel like planes are faster than cars.
Yeah, roadmaps are where things go to die.
Yeah, roadmaps. Yeah, exactly. Roadmaps are where things go to die. Final Destination style. That's the second reference today. Whereas flight seems okay. So, what about the idea here? Because we talked about time, right? And it's always been against the clock. Kind of back to your treadmill example. But we want to be able to bill by the hour, right? Like MSPs want to bill by the hour, but we don't want to do a full hour of work, but we want to bill by the hour. Like, where is that like overlap?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think that it depends kind of where you are in your journey, I think, as an MSP too, and kind of what you're offering. There's a lot of different ways you can think about that. But one way I think is you should take credit for all of the automations that your systems are doing. I think that's and you have to have that conversation in a good way with your customers. You can't just give them like a laundry list of here's all the things, because that doesn't help your end customer either. But I think a lot of it has to do with showcasing your value. And one of the things that, as an engineer myself, I think I relate to a lot of MSPs, and that a lot of people got into this because they're very technical and not because they're that business salesperson. And I think as the tool, we can and should do a lot to help you facilitate those conversations and to help you show what worth you're providing to your customers, while also hopefully not being the one that has to spend those multiple hours doing a bunch of things. So setting up a bunch of automations that run, closing out a number of alerts, showing security baselines of your Microsoft tenant and improvements over time and what you're actually doing to make those differences. I think that's where you can lean on your tool and say, hey, help me have this conversation. And I think that's what a lot of it comes down to is showcasing that value.
Yeah, especially because going back to the meme thing, right? There's that one of, everything's broken. What am I paying you for? And everything's always working all the time. What am I paying you for? Right? Because I don't think there's another industry. And if I'm wrong, I look forward to your tweets and emails. I don't think there's another industry where we have to defend our work as badly as we do, which I think is messed up on so many levels.
Yeah, I think IT is in general kind of the forgotten group, right? If it's going well, no one thinks of you and they're annoyed that they're spending the money to do what they're doing. But if anything goes wrong, like you're the first person that they're angry at.
Yeah.
And it's your fault that things are not going well. And so it's such a hard position to be in. And I think that it's a hard conversation to have, because, if things are going great, why would I pay you? But like, that's exactly why you are paying. And I think that's the conversation that we need to help MSPs facilitate.
It's like insurance, but if you're from Jersey like I am, it's like the mafia. But they don't exist. They're not real. What do you guys say, Eric?
I was just going to say it does come down to that value, right? And being able to show that value, and the right tool is going to be able to display that value to your customers. And, quite honestly, that's what we used to do QBRs for. It was because everything was running well. You had to have a forum for explaining why things were running well. All of the things that happened in the dark of the server closet that you solved before it ever caused a problem for the client. And one of my favorite descriptions of value, now granted, I'm old, I've been doing this for a long, long time. And so there are things that we used to do moving from chair to chair. Like we used to visit a client once a month, go chair to chair to do updates, virus definition updates, etc. RMM came in, and now we didn't have to do that anymore. But you know what? The value was actually greater doing it with the RMM, because I'm doing it more often. I'm not interrupting the user. It doesn't matter that it costs me less money to do. It's actually providing more value to the customer.
Yeah, and I think in these day and age, as technology continues to kind of put a thing in between the MSP and the customer, you're not having to go out to the to places on site all of the time like you used to. You can do a ton of things remotely, and people are managing everything again SaaS, and so it's almost all identity to these days. It's not as much the physical devices on site, and so you have to be able to have that conversation of value when they're not necessarily seeing your face all of the time.
Yeah, and it's not like monthly ticker reports. That's not going to do it, kind of to what you said earlier, right? Because you have a monitoring tool that's going to auto remediate when a hard drive has got 3% hard drive space left, and it's going to fix itself or whatever. Like, the client's not going to see the value in that against you as an MSP, because they could just go get that tool as well, most likely, and try to figure it out themselves, right? The value is your knowledge and being able to like manage these projects to, like what you said, or increase the MS365 security score, which I do want to get into that for a quick second, because the MS365, and I'm going to take a left because I don't know if you can talk about this or not, but the MS365 security score thing is, to me, is kind of silly, right? Because I think my bigger problem is that, and again, I'm going to get hate for this, most of my clients use Google Workspace, right? I do have some clients that are in Microsoft. It's fine. But I look at that security score and I go, and I tell my team, I'm like, we should probably work on this. And then like, we never do, right? What do you feel? Because now that it's baked into your platform, right? What do you feel the value prop is on raising that security score?
I think it depends on what you're using it for. And I think Google Workspace has something kind of similar. It's not, Microsoft is the company I think we all love to hate, but that is something that exists for everyone, right? But really, the secure score is just a means. It's Microsoft's way of trying to explain to you, like, how do you match up with other businesses at your same size and potentially like sector, depending on how it looks like. And how are you doing securitized? What happens? Now, I think where it's really challenging with the secure score is that there are ceilings depending on the license that you buy. There are different pieces that you can get, whether or not you have business premium or if you have business standard. And so I think, and then some verticals are using that for cybersecurity, or they're asking for those questions. They kind of are curious about that. So I think it's a bunch of different things. One, I think it's important to understand the security score and have a view of it. Two, Microsoft does not make it easy to really understand what to remediate, because they really have like 3 or 4 actual secure scores. When you go in, there's like the overall, then there's the identity, and then there's, they have all these different things. So which one do you look at? Which one do you care about? And so a lot of ours is about doing best practice things, maybe outside of Microsoft, and trying to keep people up to date with what changes in Microsoft. Because you look back 5 years, they didn't have conditional access. That's a newer piece. And so previously it's like, oh, I just required MFA across all my tenants. Now it's like, no, you need a conditional access policy and you have to set it up this way. And Microsoft does not make it easy to do across multiple tenants. They have Lighthouse, which you can use and does some pieces, but not to the extent that you actually need to take action. And so our goal is to try to simplify that, to say you have to use, Justin, you might be the exception, and people may think you're lucky in that way, but,
I'm always the exception, Kristen. That's just my life. Yeah, it's cool.
A lot of people are using Microsoft for a huge portion of their clients, and they don't know the details. When you think about, again, I've started thinking about this, and this is something I've been thinking about for the last couple of years, is like, years ago, it was all about the network perimeter. Everything was like, did you secure the network? Can someone get into the network? What's going to happen if someone gets into the network and gets onto one of your machines? Today, that's important, but it actually is your tenant and the whole SaaS, because everything is web, everything is SaaS. And so how do you secure that? And that comes down to understanding the tenant, and the secure score is a component of that.
Right.
I don't think it's the whole picture. And I think, again, there's some complexities in it that are not necessarily
But
that
it's a
Microsoft.
way. I mean, I think to your point, right? It's a picture. It's a way to understand the content that's going on inside of that tenant, right? Because there's otherwise, if there was no score, argumentatively say, every MSP is going to be going through being like, how secure is this? And like,
How do I know?
and because Microsoft is such the behemoth that it is, and that the marketing department needs money, so they constantly just rename products on a daily basis. I'm sticking to this story, by the way. Why Azure became Entra was all because the marketing department was like, we need more money for our staff. What do we do? It's just like they would go through and like you would have to go through millions of menus to get to it. So in your product though, like do you have you mentioned best practices. Does Syncro have like deployable pieces that you can just like click through to hit up all your tenancies?
Yeah, so what we have is we have something called security baselines. And I think of it as policy management, but for like, just like you have endpoint management on the policy side, this is basically policies for Microsoft tenants. So we aligned with the CIS framework. So we have CIS level 1 framework. It'll audit your entire tenant and tell you, how compliant are you? Do you have, 50% compliance, and where are the areas that you're actually failing? And then it continues to do drift monitoring too, which, as we all know, is critically important because your end clients actually own the tenant most of the time and sometimes make changes, or your technicians, right? And we all have things where you're trying to get something to work and you're like, oh, this isn't working. You know what, I'll just turn off MFA for just this test to see if I can get the API call to work. And then you turn it off and it works, and then you forget to turn it back on, or you forget to go down that path. And so this also does track drift to let you know, hey, this had failed. And then it goes through the normal notification system within your PSA. So it sits directly in there to alert you to say, hey, this tenant that was compliant in all these areas isn't. And then it allows you to also create like a nice report to send to your customers to say, hey, and it's a good assessment tool when you're bringing on a new customer. And as you're going through, negotiating what is that, either that hourly rate or what's our monthly rate that we're going to talk about per user. It's, hey, here's the thing that you can hold us to. We're going to bring your CIS score. And the CIS framework, is outside of Microsoft, but partnered very, very closely with them. And closely on the compliance side. So you can use that to kind of back up a lot of your cybersecurity and anything you might need.
No, I love that. Does like if that drift does happen, it's up. You mentioned that it'll open the ticket in the PSA. Hey, this is going on, or whatever it is. And I'm assuming you guys have, and if you don't, you will now, because I'm giving you this idea, like a one-click undo button to like fix the problem.
We have, so some of the things we're working on remediation. Some of them are not that easy to actually auto remediate. There's certain things.
Remediation of Microsoft isn't easy. Get out of town.
Shocker. I know, shocker. So yes, it's that some of them are farther. I will say that's where the roadmap things maybe go to die. But we have some things on the roadmap for that. But some of them, yes, we have some good ways to remediate. And then we're continuing to work to build on that. Today, we have the CIS level 1 framework. We're kind of building in an extensible system today to make it so that if you have certain rules that you also want to maybe monitor for, or if there's other ways that we can do that, we're able to solve those needs. CIS doesn't apply to everyone, especially some of our MSPs that are maybe in Australia or in Europe. Those might be different regulations.
Right. But they have their own compliancy, and I think
exactly.
You can't be all things to all people, right? And unless you're going to go down and build out compliancy modules within Syncro for CIS, CMMC, DISA-STIG, NIST, whatever the EU calls theirs, whatever ANZ calls theirs, like you would have 20 programmers up to their eyeballs in garbage all day long, right? So like,
yeah, so our goal is to make it extensible, right? So that you can pick what's important and how do we pull these pieces in to make it simpler.
The Syncro standard. That's what we're going to call it now.
Yeah, super recognizable, I'm sure.
Well, it's good branding. And you know me, I'm all about the brand. No, this is great. I really like what I'm hearing here. And I think from what you're telling me here, you're really putting, as the product is coming together and you have this single platform, and I'm putting single platform in quotes if you're not watching on YouTube, because obviously I mean single pane of glass. But like you have a single platform here where you're taking into account the efficiency of the team as well as the efficiency to get things like security in place, which is obviously a big time suck for every MSP that's out there, including, us. I think that's kind of cool that you have it all in one nice little package, and kind of want to see what else is on the plane. You don't have to tell anyone, but I'm just like I'm interested.
Well, and what we believe strongly is that Microsoft Management should be a part of your RMM. Like, it shouldn't be a separate tool. You already are doing all of your policies, all of your security, all of the pieces for your endpoint in your RMM. Why does that not same thing exist for your users? Why is that not directly alongside? Because really, the endpoints are a subset of your users a lot of times. They're associated directly with that. And so we think the world is going towards identity. That's where your RMM and PSA should evolve to. They've been around for a long time. They've been stagnant, I think, for a long time in kind of what they do. And we think this should be included directly in the RMM. So we have all of those pieces all for the same cost. You don't have to pay extra to get Microsoft Management, or that you just all the same flat fee per technician. And then we just released Microsoft 365 Cloud Backup with also Entra ID backup associated with it. So it backs up all of your Intune policies, your users, your groups, your conditional access policies. So you can have that version control to roll back if something goes wrong. It's not just backing up your users' data. This is really backing up your whole, just like it wasn't backing up files, it was backing up the whole image of the machines a while ago. Right. Like, that's what we think is important, is the Entra ID side.
Yeah, that's actually kind of cool. We'll touch on this for one quick second before we wrap up. Like, a lot of times we think about backup, we back up the user's data, we back up their email, we back up their calendars, we back up their OneDrive, et cetera, et cetera. But like, this is specifically backing up like configuration settings and such.
Yes, it does both. But
okay.
Yes, also configuration settings. So it does do what you can choose: OneDrive, SharePoint, Planner, like all of the objects that a user might have right in Microsoft.
Yeah.
And then you can back up all of your configuration, which is really your disaster recovery. Someone gets into that tenant, you need to either restore that whole tenant or roll back or go to a new tenant. You can.
That's I think that's a bigger part. I think that's like, because everyone does backup of data, but I think backing up the configuration of that tenant is a major component, and kudos to you guys for building out that platform and making it easier. Kristen, I'm cutting Eric off. Kristen, where he wanted to say something and he's not going to. Check it out, youtube.com/@allthingsmsp, and watch how he almost opened his mouth. Kristen, where can people find out more about you and Syncro online?
Yeah, come check us out, syncromsp.com. We're also on all of the major social platforms. So on LinkedIn, connect with me, Kristen Costagliola on LinkedIn. Justin was laughing at me that I don't have CTO in my bio, but still, you can look me up by my name. I know it's hard to spell, but check it out. We'll have it there. Would love to connect with anyone. I'm
sure once this episode airs, you're going to have a updated LinkedIn profile anyway, because now you know.
now I have to.
Now you have to. All right, Eric, I'll let you go this time. Any final words before we say goodbye to our friends at home?
I do. I have two things that I'm going to take away from this episode. Number one is that when it comes to security score, it's kind of like running away from the bear. I don't have to have the best security score. I just don't have to have the worst one. And then I really think that we ought to redefine SPOG as Syncro Platform of Goodness. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it took us a minute all to figure out what SPOG was the first time, but yeah, no, I get it now. Also, when you said the bear, all I can think is hands, chef. Well, Kristen, thanks so much for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, check us out, facebook.com/group/allthingsmsp. All of us on our high def glory at youtube.com/@allthingsmsp. Follow us on your favorite podcasting tools. You know where we are. Like, subscribe, ring that bell, ding-a-ling.
Thanks for having me.
No, of course. Come back anytime. That's Eric. I'm Justin. Bye.
Thank you for listening or watching the All Things MSP podcast. If you liked this episode, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. hit that like button, and consider subscribing to catch all our weekly episodes. And from your host extraordinaire, Justin Esgar, and myself, Eric Anthony, your humble producer and All Things MSP founder, thank you very much for spending your time with us. If you are not aware, All Things MSP started as a Facebook group and now supports over 6,000 members. We also have a LinkedIn page for those of you who don't do Facebook, and make sure to check out our YouTube channel for even more content. And a big thank you to our premier sponsors, EasyDmark, Helped, Goes Into, MoveBot, and Nodeware. And thank you to the rest of our sponsors. Without sponsors, we could not do what we do for the MSP community. Please consider checking them out. The All Things MSP podcast is a BizPow LLC production. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of any employer, vendor, sponsor, or random taxi driver in the Metro DC area. Be sure to join us next week for another exciting episode.